This week's meeting of G20 leaders may not include plans for direct talks between Russia and the U.S., and that hasn't stopped officials in Washington from talking to others and suggesting new ways to put pressure on Moscow. One major topic is the state of global food supplies, with the U.S. calling on others to emphasize the subject of allowing grain exports from Ukraine.
G20 countries should hold Russia accountable and insist that it supports ongoing UN efforts to reopen the sea lanes for grain delivery.
However, Russia has argued that it is not responsible for a blockade and that Ukraine is the one refusing to clear waterways for its own exports. President Putin also noted that based on estimates of how much grain supplies Ukraine actually has, it is just a fraction of global supply and is not the cause of a major shortage worldwide.
We're not blocking any exports of Ukrainian grain. The Ukrainian military authorities have planted mines at the entrances of their own ports. No one is hindering them from demining those areas or sending ships with grain out of there. We guarantee security.
This comes as Moscow has been in constant contact with the relevant UN organization on the issue, looking to tell anyone who will listen in the West that Ukrainian grain is free to go. Basically, the ball is in their court, but it's Western countries themselves who have a solid record of using food as a weapon for centuries. In fact, during the 1800s, the U.S. government openly killed millions of bison in their attempt to control Native Americans and the power and supplies they had in their country. During that time, the British government was also using starvation as a tactic, specifically around Ireland, with methods so severe that it became known as the Irish potato famine that resulted in the starvation of more than 1 million people. Britain also went on to support blockades against countries like Nigeria in the 1960s, where its restriction of food was also paired with an unhealthy supply of weapons that together fueled the deaths of countless people. The West that has now turned to the subject of grain in Ukraine into sort of a rallying cry, with the UK accusing Russia of using food as a weapon. And the West is still using the same methods to this day with modern blockades in the form of crushing sanctions against countries that include Yemen, Iran, Syria, and Venezuela. The accusations of a government using food as a weapon are nothing new, but they are especially notable when they come from governments who know the impact all too well and have never been held accountable for the devastating consequences.